Hello and welcome to day 3 of the card making countdown, where I'm showing you how to make 10 different types of cards with your Cricut over 10 days. For this video, we are making layered greetings cards. These are some designs I made years and years ago when I first got my Cricut, and they were some of the very first free SVGs I ever shared on my website. Even now, around 4 years later, they're still in the top 5 downloaded designs pretty much every single month. I get quite a lot of requests for different versions with different pictures or different text, so I thought, why not show you how to design your own so that you can choose what greeting you want and what pictures you want to put around the side. So in this video, we will be hopping into Design Space to make a card which looks like this. You can see it's got a very similar vibe to it, to these ones, but we've got different pictures. So in today's free download, you've got the butterfly, flowers, and bee SVGs, and I'll show you how to put it all together to make a card using any font and greeting that you want. But that's not all. I'm going one step further, and once we've designed this one, out the way, then I will show you how you can make layered cards with different kinds of pictures too, so that you could create greetings cards which look like these, that feature your favourite animal, or for different kinds of occasions such as birthdays or weddings or Christmas, whatever you like, that all follow this same kind of theme of having the coloured frame around the edge that you'll add pictures to in the middle. The exact card I'm going to be showing you is this one. It's a lovely woodland scene with a doe and a stag and lots of trees and prettiness in the background. But you could use the same kind of technique on any kind of image that you like to end up with a truly personal, customized greetings card. So let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the card making countdown at craftwithsarah.com/cards24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/cards24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all the files from the card making countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. First, upload the SVG file that comes in today's download folder. If you're not sure how to do that, then check out the description of this video, as I'll add the link to a separate video on how to upload SVG files to Cricut Design Space. I'm going to click on my design here, and you can see all of the separate images. I'll ungroup them by clicking the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel to separate them all out. Choose what size card you want to make. I'm going to go for a 5x7 inch landscape card. So I'll go into Shapes, choose a square, and then untick the padlock box above the width and the height box and make it 7x5. This will be my very bottom layer, which I'll make white for now. And then duplicate your rectangle or square if you're making a square card by pressing the duplicate button. This will be the start of our layering, so we need to turn this into a border to go around the edge. Click into Offset and then click the Sharp Corner option, which is the second one. And then drag the slider down so that it's a negative amount. And we want a nice thick border. This is what will join all of our pictures together. So minus 0.4, that looks like a pretty good amount. Press apply. Drag a box around those two rectangles, so your duplicated white one and the inset or offset that you put in the middle. And then down the layers panel, press slice. Delete the middles and then you'll be left with an outline. And I'll change the colour to something nice and bright so it's easier to see. Okay, I'll position these one on top of the other. And now we can start adding in the pictures and also our text. I think I'll do the text first because then I'll have a better idea of where to put the pictures. So I'll go into text, and for this one I will do a best wishes card, and I think I might do them as separate words. Then I can play about with the positioning a bit more. I want to choose a font where the letters are touching, so a nice script font. It'll just be easier to cut out that way. We'll have a little look. Or if you want separate layers, choose one that's nice and thick. DJ Flirt's a good one, or DJ Juicy looks like that could be a good one too. Let's try this dandelion one, but I have a feeling it's going to be a bit too thin. Culinary, let's try that. I quite like that. It is a bit thin in some places. So I'll have another quick look through. Choosing fonts always takes me the longest time. All right, this one's called Double Whipped. I've used this one before in a project actually, and this one's perfect for cardstock because the letters are so nice and thick. Okay, let's put my best over on the card. Then I'll duplicate that so that this is exactly the same size and type out wishes. All right. Zoom in a bit to make it easier to see. I'm going to give my text an offset layer around the edge. So I'll go into offset, and this time I want a positive number and I want to go back to the curvy edges. It doesn't need to be as thick this time. This is just going to give us our little white outline around the text to make it easier to read. So this is 0.05 and press apply. And then we'll have a little look in contour down here and take out some of these tiny pieces by clicking. I'll leave the ones in the B because they're quite big. And then I'll just change this colour down here, the white rectangle, to a much lighter orange. Then I can change the offset to white. And actually after doing that, I don't like that I can see the gaps in the B, but not the other letters. So I'm going to fill those in as well. And then we'll do the same for wishes. Give it an offset. It should remember the same amount, 0.05, but you can do however big or small you want. And press apply. Change that to white. And then fill in all the little gaps. Oh, that got rid of my W as well. There we are. All right, so now I have that vaguely in place, I can start adding the pictures. You might find that they're underneath at the moment, so just go arrange, bring to front, and then you'll see it. I'm just going to start putting them in just random places, just see how it goes. And I'm thinking that my text is probably a little bit big. I'm going to make that a little smaller so that I've got the room to add the pictures around the edge. And I'll just make those ones so that they're touching. Now it could probably be a bit bigger because of how I've moved it about. Okay, that's great. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to group all of these text layers just so that they're all contained together and I'm not accidentally going to move them about. All right, where are my other pictures? Let's Just move them closer. Move them to the top. At this point, I'm not worrying so much about colours or anything like that. I'm just trying to get these in to a nice layout. And I will be adding a white offset to all of these pictures as well, just like with the text, which is why I'm not actually touching these pictures up against the text. I'm leaving a little gap. I'm going to do all the offsets at the end once I've sized everything. And the reason for that is if I did the offset now and then change the size of the flowers or the butterfly or anything, then the offset would change in proportion because I'd resize them both, and then it wouldn't be quite the same thickness across everything. And I want it to be nice and consistent. This flower's a bit of an awkward shape. It's okay if your pictures end up touching each other, because the offset, when we do it, will go around everything. So it will just kind of join them together even more, which will look nice. My bumblebee. I don't want to make anything too small, otherwise it'll be a bit tricky to cut out from cardstock. I might actually leave him separate, the little bumblebee, and stick him on top and colour the layers yellow and maybe white for his wings. So I'm going to put him there and I'll come back to him later. Alright, I've still got quite a lot of space down here, so we'll fill in some of these by duplicating the other pictures. Now the butterfly, when it gets smaller, will be hard to cut because of the little gaps. What you can do is go into contour and then hide all contours to fill it in, and then you've got a little silhouette butterfly which you can get away with making much smaller. You want the outlines of your pictures to be touching in places so that it's all joined together. That way when we cut out our top layer, the darker coloured one that I showed you at the beginning, everything will kind of be joined, so it's much easier. But I'm just leaving a little gap from the text for now, for when I add the other offset. Don't worry if you've got bits hanging over the edge, we'll cut all those off at the end. If you want to get a slightly better idea of how it's looking, you can move your border to the very top, and then this just shows a little bit easier what you'll actually see once we've cut off those edges. I'm just going to keep going round, filling these spaces in. My bee, I'll glue on as a separate piece so I can drag that one to the top. And don't be afraid to take your time on this, especially if you're new to designing in Cricut Design Space. The more time you take making it look really good at this stage, the easier everything else will be. I think I'll put another bumblebee over in this corner, which again I'll stick on separately. And maybe one more. Actually, I'm not going to make that a little bit smaller, otherwise it'll be really hard to line up the layers when that's done, but he should just about fit. Okay, I think we need some more butterflies. One there. And now I'm just trying to fill in some of these little gaps a bit. Make sure we've got all of these touching that outer border or one of the other flowers so that they'll all be nicely joined on. It's going to be a little bit hard to cut out these antennae, that's small, but I think it should be okay. Oops. Ooh. I'm trying to move it, not squidge it. Okay. Want that butterfly over a bit. At the moment, my text is kind of quite separate from everything, even when I've got the offset on these flowers. It's not touching the edges of my card, so I think I just need to add a couple of extras so that they'll join the text to the edge of the card. Otherwise, it'll be really hard to stick on. One there. And there. And then my bee, that little bumblebee, can move down because remember that's going to be stuck separate. All right, so at this point, I'm going to select everything and duplicate it to make a copy. Oops. We'll group it first. Group first, then duplicate. And then hide that duplicated one. This is just in case we want to go back and change the positioning if we're not happy with it after we've done the next step. Now we can add the offset to all of the pictures to see how it's going to look when it's got the white outline. So I'm going to go through all of these, click offset and give it the same sized offset as the text, which mine was 0.05. Press apply and make it white. And I'm going to do that for every single picture. And if you notice when you've done that, it's got little gaps in it, like this flower's got a tiny gap in there. Fill them in by pressing contour and then hide all contours. So I'm going to pause this video and then go and add all my offsets and make them white because it's going to take me a little while, and then I'll come back and we'll finish off the card. Now all my pictures have got the offset around them, apart from the bumblebees, because I'll be sticking them on individually rather than joining them to everything else. Now at this point, it's time to check the positioning of everything, and it's much easier to do that if you zoom in. So we're wanting to check that we've got enough overlap that everything's going to be joined together, and also that there aren't any little spaces like this little gap here between the flowers and the text. If there are, then you can select the layers. Sometimes it's easier to hide that border. And, oh, that unselected it again. Make sure you move the offset and the picture. And don't worry if your offsets are overlapping or if they're going over any of your pictures. So you see this white here is now going over the black of these two flowers. And that's okay because when we merge all the layers together in a moment, all the black will then go on the top. So I'm just checking everything is nicely touching on that offset. So here there's a tiny gap between the edge of the flower and the text. So I'll move it down. And then there are some little gaps here between the flower and the butterfly offsets. Those are okay to leave as is because we can fill those in with the contour tool. And this little butterfly. Try to avoid resizing because then your offsets will come out of proportion. If you do need to resize something, delete the offset layer, then resize it, and then make the offset again. This little butterfly here. Oh, not that one. That one? He's not quite touching the T of the text. So I'm going to move that one down. And again, with this flower, it's not quite touching the letter offsets. Now it is. It's a little bit of trial and error and practice to get it all where you want it to go. The more you do it, the easier and more natural it will become, and you'll start to learn to spot things that you need to change as you're going through and doing it. Okay, nearly done. Just bring that one up to touch the text. And then I think we're done with that. Just giving it one more look over. That's looking good to me. So actually just that one butterfly. It's just a little gap there where it's not touching, so I wouldn't be able to contour it. There we go. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to give it a save. You probably should have saved it already. I'm going to call it Butterfly Layers and then save. And then straight away, I'm going to go save as, and call it Butterfly Flat. And now, once I've done that, it means when I do what I'm about to do and combine this all down so that it only becomes 3 layers, then I've still got that layers file saved so I can go back to it if I need to. And now I've saved it as that separate layers file, I can delete the copy that we made a little bit earlier. Where is it? Here. I don't need that anymore because now we've got that saved in a different project. Right, now we can start merging everything together. So I'm going to go through, click on one of my offsets, then press Shift on my keyboard, keep the Shift key held down. You might have to let go of it when you scroll down the layers panel, but then press it again, and this is going to let you select multiple layers. There's a strange bug at the moment, which is you can scroll down, but then as soon as you click a layer, it takes you back up again. So you have to keep scrolling. It's a little bit time consuming, but we'll get there. Right, that's all those offsets. Then I'm going to press Combine at the bottom of the layers panel and then Weld. That will join them all together. I've left my bumblebees, remember they'll be separate. And then I also need to join it to the text. So we'll ungroup the text, find the offset layers in there, and weld that as well. And this is what we've ended up with, this shape here. Next, we'll cut off everything that's going outside of the border. So I'll go into Shapes and choose a rectangle or a square, and then resize it so that it's covering up everything that's going over one of the sides. Make sure you don't come longer than the border. And we need to do this for every single side of the card. So rotate it 90 degrees. And we'll do that edge. And then one more for that one. Okay, select all of those and weld them together. And now we can slice that out of the white. You can only slice with 2 layers at a time. So if you select them and you can't see the slice button, just check that you have welded all the offsets into one and all of those rectangles into one. Then you can press slice and it will cut them out, delete the outside bits, and now we've just got the inside. We need to make a copy of our border. The easiest way to do this, to duplicate it exactly in the right place, is to press the Alt key on your keyboard, then move the mouse a little bit with that Alt key pressed and you see the cursor changes. So this is mine without the Alt key pressed. Press it and move the mouse the tiniest bit, and you see the cursor changed. So now there's a little plus icon. Single click with the mouse, and that will duplicate the layer. Now you've got a copy and it's in exactly the same place. I'll hide one of them, make the other one white, and then weld that together with the offset layer in here. There we go. Okay, now we can fill in any little gaps. Don't want to fill in too many, but you see some of these are really, really small and not really adding to the overall effect. So I'm going to fill those in. That one. That's probably enough. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing, but with the black images. Not my bumblebees though. I'll hide those ones. Turn that one on. That'll become black. Actually, I'm going to keep it separate for now. It'll make it easier to do the slicing. All right, so now I'm selecting all of my little pictures. And the text, the best wishes. Doesn't matter that these aren't actually touching. That's fine. It will just cut it separately. The pictures will all end up touching because the border will join them. But for now, combine and weld. There we go. I'm going to change that back to black. And then we need to do the same thing where we slice off anything outside of that orange border. So I'm making my 4 rectangles. Rotate to go on the side. There we go. Weld those 4 together. And then slice that out from your butterflies. Oops, slice. Delete the offsets. Offsets, outer offcuts. That's what I was looking for. Offcuts. And then we'll weld it together with that remaining border. Here we go. And then take out any tiny little gaps. On this one, I'm only doing just those smallest little rectangles. Where's that? That's that little bit there. We don't need that. I'm keeping the circles because that's the details in the butterfly. That's a detail inside the petal, so I'll keep that one. I think everything else is good. That's how our card's looking. So really, really pretty. We're so nearly there now. I'm just going to do these bumblebees. So I'll drag them below. I want to colour these in. So I'll duplicate one of them in place. This will be my very bottom one, which I'll do as yellow. I'll change it to a yellow colour. And then contour. Hide all contours, and that will fill everything in. Then for the wings, I'll duplicate it in place again, and then make this one white. And this time, I'll just contour those wings. And then we have the cutest little bumblebee down here. And I'm actually going to delete these 2 and group the first one together and duplicate it. Then I don't need to do the colouring again. I can just add him in. Keep them all the same size because it'll be much easier to stick the layers together if they're all the same. There. Beautiful. I think I might actually do another bumblebee. Oh, I just ungrouped instead of duplicated. Maybe that's too much. No, I quite like one on there. I'm just having a little look just to check that that is all looking good, which I think it is. So let's save it. Remember, this is the one that has the name Flat. And then the last thing to do is, if you're going to be actually cutting the greetings card with your Cricut rather than using a pre-made 7x5" card blank, we need to actually make that card size. So I'll go to my original rectangle, change the height to make it 10 inches so that we can fold it in half. So this is what we've ended up with. Everything else I'll group together. And then I'll add a score line to make it easier to fold. That'll be 7 inches, but I need to rotate it. And then I'll select that and the rectangle and go align center to put the score line in the middle. And then press attach to join it on. That moves it to the top of the layers panel. So we'll go arrange, center back, and then move that back in. There we go. Let's save that again. And that's our 5x7" layered greetings card, all finished and ready to cut. Here is my best wishes card, all cut from cardstock and stuck together. So you can see it opens here. And I've cut it from my 2 colours of kind of yellowy orange. My top one's got a lovely sheen to it, a little metallic bit. For this one, I decided to glue my main layers. So these are all glued, and then the bumblebees are stuck on with some foam squares, which look something like this. They come in all different brands and sizes, and then everything else was just glued together. Alternatively, if you wanted to add a bit more dimension, what you could do is add your foam squares to the back of the white layer as well, and that'll give it a bit more pop. I kept this one with only the 1 layer of foam on the bees, just so it's a little bit thinner for posting. But if we look at the original ones from my website, these ones have the foam squares, which you can see in there on the white. It gives it a little bit more of a pop-out effect, and you get a bit more dimension to the card. So it's completely up to you which one you decide to do. But now let's go back to Design Space and we'll develop our layering skills. So instead of this one, we're now going to move on to creating different scenes using loads and loads of images. For this next part of the video, we're going to take our card making layering one step further by making a scene within the front of our greetings card. This is a different kind of way of making a card so that you can add more of a kind of decorative design in any theme that you want, rather than doing something that's focused around the edge of the text. So I've already made my rectangle and my inset border just like I did in the first part of this video, and I've chosen some woodland imagery from Cricut Access to get me started. So my kind of thinking for how this one's going to turn out is I'll have the sky at the back, and then I'll build up several layers of tree and grass and have some deer looking like they're in the woodland. So I'll start by just kind of roughly getting things where I might want them to go. And I'm not worrying too much about sort of how it looks at this particular point. We're just being really rough and ready with it. That'll look nice as part of my border. The hardest part on this is definitely choosing the pictures. So I've already done a lot of that hard work before joining in. I'm going to make this one fairly simple because I am aware that the video is already quite long. So we'll keep things simple on this one. My deer, which should be behind the grass, and my buck. Let's make their ears touch so that they'll be joined together when it's cut out. I'm making sure that things are touching the edge, so my border, so that they'll all be joined together when this is cut. I think a little cloud in that top right is gonna be good. I'm choosing just simple one color images for this, but you could make them more complicated if you want. That'll be right down at the back. Could maybe do another one peeking through the clouds as well. Okay, so I'm being really quick with this on purpose, just so that the video doesn't end up being forever long. But I kind of like where that's going, so I am going to save this and call it Dear Card Layers, so that if I want to in the future, I can move them about again. And then save it again straight away, just like we did with the flower card. And now I'll call it Flat. So now I can start merging these layers together. Don't worry that we've got all these weird bits of all of the blue showing through. We'll fill those in. First, I need to cut off anything that's over the edge. That's only going to be this bush here and my grass, so that's nice and easy. So just like we did with the flower card, place a rectangle over any bits that are outside the edge, slice them off and delete the excess. Don't forget, if you're doing more than one of the squares, you need to weld them together to allow you to slice, because you can only slice 2 layers at once. All right, so now that's done. I'm going to hide and make a copy of everything. So I'll group it first and then press Alt with my keyboard and click so it goes in exactly the same place. My first layer will be my clouds. That's what I want at the very bottom. What's that? Oh, that's a random image I didn't use. Okay, that was confusing me what that was in my layers panel. All right, so to make the cloud layer, first I'm going to go combine and weld to join everything. And then we'll contour out, firstly, all the teeny tiny gaps that are up here in the tree and all the other little ones. And then fill in, not that one, that's in the tree. Where's that? In the dough. Dear dough. Then we need to fill in all of the other gaps around here. I always kind of start with the bottom layer and work upwards. It might be easier to do it the other way, but in my brain, this way just kind of makes the most sense to me. Oh, I'll just put that into the group. Why is moving things so hard? Bring forward. All right, so that's our first layer. Now we can turn on our group again. This time we can go in and delete the clouds because we've already sorted that cloud layer. We don't need them anymore. And it might be easier to hide it, the clouds. Then we can duplicate it in place again and hide one of them. And now we're doing the trees. So we'll combine and weld. And it's kept the right color, so that's great. We can contour out all these bits, fill them in. This time I'm making sure I don't fill in the sky, because that'd be a little bit weird if we had a green sky. Nope. Also make sure if you've got any little gaps like that, you don't want to fill those in. What's that? That's that bit. I don't want to fill that in. Okay. Now I have my next layer. So then we'll do the same thing again. Turn on the group. Now I can delete the trees. Delete. Duplicate it in place. Hide one of them. Now we're doing the bushes. So combine and weld. And then fill in the contours. Everything underneath the bush. Actually, this one is probably going to be easier to go hide all contours and then just put the sky back on. Nah, that was much easier. All right, here's what we're up to now. Looking good. Okay, now I can delete the bushes. Do the same again. It's a little bit repetitive. So duplicate, hide one of them. This time is the deer layer. So combine and weld. There's not an awful lot to fill in now. It's just those little gaps. Just those ones. There we go. Nice and easy on that one. Oh, I dragged it into the group again. I always do that. I have a problem with moving things where I always seem to put it in a group when I don't mean to. There we go. And then we can do the last one. Delete those deer. And now I've got my grass and the border. Weld them together. Nothing to contour out this time. So then we can turn this on. And we've got our layered card all ready to cut. So that was a super duper simple way of doing it. But it was just kind of designed as a little quick overview to show how you can make layered scenes as well as the layered text cards. Obviously, I would then need to take my sky layer and turn that into the 5x7 inch card front. And then I could get it all cut out and we'll see how to stick it together. Here's my woodland card stuck together. And again, I decided to just use one layer of foam squares on this so that it doesn't get too thick for posting. And my foam square layer I've done as the deer to make it look like they're coming out from that background. Of course, you can add as few or as many foam square layers as you want to. Just be careful, if you do make your card really thick, it might cost you a little bit more to post it. Everything else I have glued, and so even though there is only one foam layer, it's still a really dimensional, interesting card because we took the time to add so many different colours and layers and images. It just all comes together really, really beautifully. And there we go, that is our layered woodland card, all finished. Although, of course, yours might not be a woodland card if you've done it on a different theme, but whatever you've done, I hope you enjoyed designing and making it with me. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a wide variety of layered greetings cards with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and come back tomorrow for day 4 of the card making countdown, where I'll be showing you how to take these layered card fronts and go one step further to add something a little bit special to the inside. I can't wait to share that with you tomorrow, but in the meantime, thank you for watching. Bye!